Hey, everybody.
What up, dog?
It's 10 o'clock on a Tuesday, at least Pacific time it is.
It's a Wednesday.
You could be wherever, even in the future, watching this on YouTube.
It's Wednesday.
But right now, sorry, it's Wednesday. Having a Monday off, so America had a holiday this week.
That's true.
And that means I don't know what day of the week it is.
I have a baby, so I don't know what week it is.
Yeah, so it's Wednesday, 10 a.m. And we also didn't stream yesterday because we had we took a day off because the weirdness of the schedule.
It was crazy.
So yeah, so this is a developer hangout, which is our Wednesday live stream. We live stream at least 3 times a week, 10 a.m. Pacific. Tuesdays is Weekly Rumble. Somebody plays a game here. It's been Monster Apocalypse recently. It was also Extreme Colossal Wrestling last week. It'll be whatever we want it to be. Some other interesting things are coming up.
War Machine.
Get Your Paint On is tomorrow.
Kind of stuff.
And then today you can watch us talk about development stuff. Usually somebody from development. Hopefully never just one of us by ourselves, because that'll be a little sad and lonely. Yes, Pagani took a baby break and came in to be here with me today.
Yes. I'm telling you, I still want you to do one of these alone. And just
it'd
greet
be
people
great.
in chat, but never say anything else.
It'd be great. I just stare at the camera for 45
Straight at
minutes.
the camera.
And then tomorrow is Get Your Paint On, which is our live stream with Dallas or another painter, painting and answering questions and talking about stuff. Sometimes we have one of the writers on there, so there's a little bit of lore conversation as well.
You can ask them hobby questions from anything from basing to painting to mixing, blending, all that kind of stuff.
And often Dallas is painting his own models, so he's doing crazier things, like putting flames on his Grimkin or
Not studio
or
models,
whatever.
so.
Yeah, he's working on some crazy building conversion for Monster Apocalypse.
God, it's so cool.
But I don't know what he's going to paint tomorrow, so we'll see. We'll have to.
Stuff.
Yeah, he paints something, and often he shows off other things. Like he brought the Supreme Guardian on that one day and showed it off, which that's a segue and a half right there. Smooth. So the Supreme Guardian is up for pre-order from Black Anchor. You can get that until the 10th, which is next Monday, and that's pre-orders only, which gets you the patch, not an eye patch, a patch for your clothing.
You could put it on your eye.
You could adhese
Probably
it to your
painful.
eyeball any way you want, but not recommended. And the other news we have is Mini Crate at minicrate.com, mini dash crate dash this kind, not that kind. That is a brand new 6-month wave of Mini Crate stuff that just started. The very first model is Lady Rose Riding Hood, which is the Grimkin Solo turned into a Little Red Riding Hood. And most importantly, most excitingly, a brand new Alexia model is the subscription bonus model. So if you subscribe at any time during the 6 months, your next shipment will also have that Alexia Handmaid of Death in it.
If you go for a VIP subscription, you get the Alexia
if you do the VIP.
free in your.
You can buy models individually as they come out, or you can subscribe VIP style, and you can subscribe for the VIP subscription at any point during the 6 months. You can wait until the very last month. You just won't get any of the other models you didn't pay for. And that is going until the 19th for Lady Rose. But there's no limit on Alexia whenever you VIP subscribe.
6 months. February 19th.
Yes. So if you're watching this on YouTube in 2058, sorry, you're too late.
I think YouTube will still exist.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be inside of our brains. Okay, so we're here today to talk about Tharn CID. This is the start of week 2.
Yes. I do want to, before we jump into this, I want to hit something in chat right quick. Megamole99 asks, at Privateer Press, any word on when the Scorn Masters of War, which I always read as Man of War, because he abbreviates it to MOW. Theme changes will go live. Kind of hard to figure out the Supreme Guardian without knowing these changes. I would guess that they will go live shortly after the WTC wraps up, which is in just a couple weeks.
Yep.
I don't know the current status of that because I haven't been here.
That Sunday is the 16th of September,
yes,
I believe. And lists are locked and people are prepared for that, so we don't want to shift rules before that event happens, because a lot of people go to that from all over the world.
Yes, so I would expect them shortly after that. Though what I will say is what you saw in CID is almost certainly going to be what comes out. There might be a little bit of changes to the Masters of War stuff, because we did have some complaints there, but I think in general you'll be very happy with our Masters of War changes. So,
Legionnaire said
worry
it
too
correctly.
much about that.
Meowsters of War.
Yes.
Yeah, and that was the only thing I didn't do in the announcements thing. If you're watching this on YouTube, we do have chats going, so we'll be glancing this direction quite a bit.
There's a lot of good
trying to
reading
see,
face, like,
trying to see what's going on. I'm not going to do the whatever I did last week, that created a big, exciting thing. It was a picture of me with my mouth open, which doesn't happen very often, but happens with you all the time.
Yep.
So we're going to talk about the CID changes that we just implemented this morning. The forums for week 2 will be live after this. So feel free to jump on, download stuff, and then comment after. And comment after you play games, hopefully. So if you can get a game in this morning, jump right on and comment.
Good luck.
So the first thing we're going to talk about is the Warlocks.
Yep.
And Iona and both Morvahnas that are in this CID got small changes.
Yes. So Iona, we really like where she's at in terms of her rules and stuff like that. But just like a slight downward tweak in War Beast points was kind of how we felt. We wanted to tone her down just a little bit because she has been doing super duper well in a lot of her battle reports and stuff.
Yeah, we're feeling that she's maybe a little bit too powerful, and we're turning the dial in a tiny way right now, and we're going to let it go for a little while and see what happens.
Yeah, it's unlikely that we see huge changes to Iona, probably at all during the CID. It'll be little tweaks and stuff. We also opened up her feat just a tiny bit in
the second half of her
second half of her feat, which is the rerolls on failed attack rolls. It now affects all warrior models instead of just Tharn. So that can let you get like Lord of the Feast Bird rerolls, which is something that a lot of people want. Can also then affect things in other theme forces and stuff like that. So just something to keep in mind there, that is no longer specifically Tharn. Now, there has been a lot of feedback like, why would you make Iona only work with Tharn? Well, one, she doesn't only work with Tharn, just her feat, the major benefit of it goes to Tharn. And two, like, we want that, right? Like, we don't want this caster just kind of like running around with wolds and stuff, and that would be weird. So we want this caster to be primarily Tharn-based in what they're building. We don't necessarily want to like actively stop her from playing with other things, but we're not going to like go out of our way to make her better with, say, Wolfsworn or something like that.
Well, and that's some of the design space we use, is that sometimes casters are for the entire faction, and sometimes they're more tailored to a theme.
Yes. Yeah.
Like recent Sorsha in her Man of War suit.
Correct.
It was very Man of War centric, but she could play in other armies if you want.
If you want. So, we do have a couple chat questions.
There's a question about Abattoir. I just want to say that part.
Prototype 0, could we expect to see whatever Tharn changes also go live around the same time as the later Scorn Masters of War theme stuff? No, definitely not. No. This CID will have been done, I think it actually ends that day.
September 17th.
Yeah, so no.
So
it'll still be 6 to 8 weeks or so after that.
The way that process works is when we finish, we continue testing internally.
Yes.
We have usually at least one more meeting where we discuss things, and we make tiny tweaks sometimes. And then we give it to editing, and editing gives it to design, and the cards get laid out and all that kind of stuff. And so that process, depending on other projects, takes a couple of weeks. So we never promise exactly when that's going to happen. But if you looked at the schedule of the past ones, it's been 6 to 8 weeks, like Brianna said.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Cheers.
Okay, so Morvahna the Autumn Blade just got a tiny
little tweak.
Tiny adjustment.
We
felt like
one War Beast point. I don't know.
She gained a War Beast point and a hit point.
Yes,
because we felt like she wasn't quite survivable enough, and we wanted to give her a little bit more power, and we didn't want to dial her way up and then have to turn her back down right away. Yeah. So we're giving her a little tweak to see what the reaction is, and then we'll go from there.
Yep. And then Censure is going to be something that we're keeping an eye on for Morvahna 2. Basically, our feedback showed that people love Morvahna 2, but Censure was not really an effective spell. So this was actually a suggestion straight out of the forums that I read and I saw. Where now whenever you, one, it only affects enemy spells now, which is great.
That's great.
And then, because she has a bunch of upkeeps that she doesn't want to get rid of.
Yeah.
And then two, it now is another way for her to heal, right? Like some people are saying that they have a hard time finding ways for her to heal throughout the turns, especially when you're playing some really weird lists. Like I like to play her in Secret Masters with double fulcrums because it's hilarious and amazing.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll write an insider on that list. It's awesome. And I think this Censure is really going to help out a list like that because that list doesn't have a lot of stuff for Imperishable Conviction to heal her up and stuff.
Yeah.
And no real carnivore targets to heal her. So maybe Censure will help out a little bit.
And that is also her spell. Nobody else has that spell.
Correct.
So we want to dial it up and make it a little more powerful as her signature spell.
Yeah.
Not everybody gets signature spells, but
when they do, they normally are tailored specifically for them. We're on to Getorix, which is incredibly spicy.
Yeah. So, like I said, sometimes we turn the dial in a small way, and sometimes we turn the dial in a bigger way. We've been talking about a lot during this entire process the roles of different models in armies.
Yes.
Like we've talked about it a bunch with the Tharn infantry, but we've also been thinking about it with war beasts that are together, like the satyrs or the warp wolves. So this is a change to Getorix to make him go a certain direction that other warp wolves can't necessarily go.
Yeah, so the durability of the other warp wolves is not great, right?
Yeah.
Like no one's going to tell you that they're super durable war beasts. And Getorix dropped regeneration and gained rapid healing, which is sort of that Tharn idea kicking in here. And with spiny growth and an armor buff, say from Chromac 1 or something, this guy goes to armor 21 with rapid healing, which is incredible.
Makes him
like
way
absolutely
tankier.
amazing. So even without that armor buff, at armor 19 with rapid healing, I think this guy could honestly be an issue. Like,
yeah,
he's going to be real tanky. He's going to be real good. I'm kind of excited to see what this does, and I'm worried, I guess.
Well, and it also gives him a passive heal instead of an active heal,
Correct.
and one that he can survive longer now instead of maybe lucking out and not dying and then healing back up. Now it goes the other direction.
Constantly. So.
And he's one of the coolest models available in that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But test that. Tell us what you think. Play games with it because that's the best way to get experience that's real and feedback that helps us out.
Prototype Zero asks, how often do you guys turn the dial up just to see how people will try out these models in CID? All the time.
Yeah.
We're constantly trying new things and doing exciting stuff. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
And your feedback, positive and negative, influences our decisions.
Sure.
So if everybody's saying, I don't see a reason for this model to be in an army, if that's like 99.9% of the feedback is that I'm having trouble fitting this in because it doesn't have a good role, then that's sometimes when we crank it to a little bit of a crazy level, just to see where that point is that people are like, oh, now it has a role, now I take it all the time. Sure. And then sometimes we dial it back.
Sure.
Yeah.
Wildwing Zero asks, so why doesn't Chromac have tough? We're kind of off topic because Chromac is not part of the CID, but I will answer this one. Chromac's sort of healing power, so like his Tharnness, is kind of tied into his ability to transfer, right? Like that's kind of how we see him surviving stuff. So like tough and the rapid healing that we just added all the male Tharn and stuff, that's why those Chromacs don't have that, is because we sort of see their life force and their hardiness coming in through that kind of stuff.
Hardiness. I see what you did there.
Yeah. So the Horn Satyr is another one of those roles amongst similar war beasts. So the other two satyrs, the reaction to their changes has been very positive. Both the Gnarlhorn and the Shadowhorn people are liking what they're doing and how they're different. But the Riphorn was still kind of not separated enough from the others.
Correct. And we kind of knew this going into it, right?
Yeah.
Like it had very few changes going in.
And we see it as kind of the frontline satyr. The other ones have mobility and move things around and do that kind of stuff. But this guy just gets in front and fights.
Well, I think he's kind of the most durable circle heavy right now, right?
Yeah.
I mean, living heavy anyway.
Sure.
He's armor 19, 30 boxes. Like, that's pretty good.
It's robust.
He's a big boy.
We cranked up his hit points a little bit. I think
it was 4.
He was at 26 before.
Yep.
And we gave him +1 power on the blade gauntlets because his power wasn't quite far enough apart from the unarmed
or the feral
satyrs
kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
And we wanted to make him the more combat-oriented of the three of them.
Yeah, we talked, we do have a couple questions popping up about the animus for the Riphorn in here, and we talked about a couple things. Still as Death was one of the ones that kept getting brought up in CID. We don't really think that that's the role for the Riphorn, right? Like we already have the counter-slamming satyr. We don't really want a counter-charging satyr now. Is the Riphorn animus up for discussion? Absolutely, yes.
Yeah.
Is it going to be something insane like Rage? No. So just don't even worry about that.
Yeah, and this is another one of those, we talked about the animus, but we wanted to make smaller changes first to see if this pushed him more into the role we wanted, and then we can address the animus if we're still not happy with how things are working out. So give us feedback.
Yes.
The Storm Raptor.
The Storm Raptor. This one's pretty exciting to me.
Zap.
Dropping 3 points is always great, right? Like, it's just amazing to lose points on models. Skyfire had a clerical update, essentially. It had a conflicting thing in it. The stat line on it said round, I think, and then the or one of them was wrong. It had round and turn for its duration.
It had turn in the stats, but it said round in the rules.
So it's been just kind of standardized to turn. We don't really care about it as a round so much, which kind of makes me sad now that I think about it a little bit more, because I want Lightning Storm on Kruger and stuff, but we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
What? It's CID. Well, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. And then Flying High. Flying High, I think, was a Crucible Guard rule on Rocketman that never made it public.
Yeah, it never went to CID.
Like we play tested it a bunch on stuff. Specifically, the Rocketman Ace, I think, granted it to Rocketman originally, and it was pretty bananas on Rocketman.
It was a bit out there,
and I think it's going to be pretty bananas on the Storm Raptor. But I think it also, addresses sort of that ranged issue and solidifies it as sort of a ranged fighting beast.
Yeah.
Along with the points drop, I think it's going to make this thing really durable, which I'm excited about. Without having to give it a bunch of hit points and armor and stuff. So it's a unique way to make the Storm Raptor a lot harder to kill. So.
And that point shift, there's not a wide spectrum of points in the huge base battle group.
Correct.
Things.
Yeah.
So the cheapest one of them is 32,
which is the Blightbringer.
And there's a lot of other 34s. So we've shifted it from the top, closer to the top end, way down to the bottom
end. Something to note that I have concerns about, and I know we're planning on playtesting internally a lot, is combining Flying High with either, I think it's Windstorm now, used to be called Stormwall.
One of Kruger 2 spells.
Yeah, Kruger 2 Windstorm. And then Phantasm on Iona also does it, right? So you can get -10 range when shooting the Storm Raptor. That's pretty spicy.
Yeah, so
I'm excited.
So test that out in games. Don't just give us feedback that says -10 range is too good, it's broken, there's no way around it, because...
I mean, obviously. Well, and we saw some feedback from a non-Tharn player that was like, the -5 range from Phantasm on Tharn Ravagers made it so I couldn't shoot them on turn 1 or something. And I'm like, well, yeah, correct. Yeah. That's what that spell does. So saying Flying High stops me from shooting it, that's just a factual statement. That's not an opinion. We don't need to hear that feedback. What we do need to hear is Flying High stopped me from shooting it and completely shut me out of the game, or something like that, right? That's the feedback that we want to hear. Is Flying High did this, great. How does that affect the game? How does that affect your game plan? Is it too much? Is it too little? What happens, basically? So that's kind of what I'm looking for out of the Storm Raptor, is what's going on with that kind of stuff. We had a couple decent questions, I think, up there, but I think they may have gone off the top.
There was more comment about stacking with the spells. There was a little bit of other strange things, like comparisons to Dracodiles and things like that.
Yeah, I'm not, if you can't shoot this thing effectively, I'm probably fine with that.
It's not.
This thing's not a great melee powerhouse.
Really durable,
and once it goes in, it's going to die immediately in combat. I'm not too worried about that. Striker 911. I'm going to hit this one every single time someone brings it up. How do we feel about spam lists in battle reports? Spam to us is not necessarily a problem. So if someone plays 9 Slayers, that's not a problem in of itself. If someone plays 10 Riphorns or whatever, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Whatever that number is. The problem comes in when no one else can beat that list. And that is not anything to do with the fact that it's 10 of the same thing or whatever, right?
Yeah.
That is an irrelevant discussion in terms of, is this list broken? Is the list broken or not? Is the discussion, not...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And part of that is, does it push out other options in list building and become the answer?
Correct, yes.
Does it answer too many questions? Because if you have a very effective list that takes 10 of one thing, but there's 7 other lists that can kill it really easily because it can't address a thing, then that's not necessarily a problem as it is when you're like, well, this list destroys everything and nobody can fight it.
That's the problem, not the fact that the list contains 10 of the same models.
Yeah.
Or whatever. What do we got left? We got the Pure Blood. Going to Rat 6. Cheers, you're welcome.
That was just another one of those. The Pure Blood's kind of the gun amongst the Warwolves.
Yeah, so we'll make
give
it a little
enticement
there. It's probably not going down in points. It's probably not gaining any strength or anything like that. The Pure Blood is really doing what we already want to see here, and we're just kind of incentivizing that type of role for it.
Yeah.
Right up there. We're not going to make this thing a melee beater. It's probably not getting any cheaper, so just be aware of that.
The next one, though.
The next one is super spicy, which is the Warwolf Stalker. Goes to strength 11, which is kind of something that I've always wanted as a circle player, is POW 19 Stalkers when they warp strength. It's super good. I mean, I feel like
that's the only assessment you can have of that. Super good.
Well, I mean, super good, right? Like going up in POW is never going to be bad ever. But
and he's the combat one. He's got the sword.
Yeah.
So we wanted to make him a little bit more of a damage dealer.
I think a lot of people assumed that me as being like a huge circle player, we're going to be like, oh my god, Pagani's going to make all of our stuff amazing. But like I was killing a lot of stuff with POW 18 stalkers. So like I was actually kind of fighting against this change because like I think stalkers of POW 18 are already great. So POW 19 even better. Might be too good.
We'll see.
Like once again, I'm skeptical.
That's what the process is for.
Yes.
And like we always say, this is the point where I have to put the warning out there. Yeah. Don't buy models based on CID rules. Don't rush out there and buy 10 stalkers and then get mad at us when we revert a change and now you have 10 stalkers that you don't want to have anymore.
7 painted stalkers.
Sure. Are they all for different lists because you have to paint each list individually differently?
Yeah.
Like your
well, they're all like different skins. No, that's different factions.
But do buy Getorix because he's a dope model.
Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Like buying a single model you like that you want to paint is always safe. Buying 10 of something because it happens to have really good rules in CID right now, that's not the wisest of decisions.
Yes. D4G Jarek asks, any thoughts of giving a +1 mat instead of strength boosts? Yes, we talked about that a lot, actually. And I personally really like the differentiation between the Feral and the Stalker with that +1 mat. And I think it really gives the Feral kind of a place in homes, whereas if we made it +1 mat on the Stalker, you would see a lot less Ferals coming out.
Yeah,
because of that one mat.
We're also concerned about Berserk and more accuracy.
Correct, yes. So a model with Berserk that gets a lot of attacks, should it want them, is not necessarily somewhere that we're looking to put a mat buff. You can also buff him with your Warlock if you're going in for the Berserk stuff. So like the mat 6 is probably sticking on the Stalker. It's unlikely to go to 7 if I had to guess. And I feel like we're just hitting down all of these things. Guys, the CID forums is for asking questions about stuff. And asking questions, what about +1 arm on the Feral? Yes, that was discussed as well. We don't like that either because that is stepping on the Stalker toes. It can also already warp for armor, which goes to 18 versus 19, which is the differentiation between Getorix and the Feral. Like, we have reasons for all of these things. So asking things like, well, what about this change, is not really great because we have assessed all of the stuff that has come in through CID. So we could go through it all now, or we could not.
Like we've said before, anytime you say, have you ever thought of X? Yes, we have. We've considered numerous options.
Many things.
Like our meetings go fairly long, and usually there's a few minutes of discussion about every model, even the ones we think are perfect and we're not going to change.
Yeah, we still talk about them.
We still consider
and we talk about the feedback.
Any kind of adjustments and their feedback.
So, yeah.
Blood Pack.
Yes, Blood Pack.
So the Blood Pack is another one of those role conversations. Tharn have a lot of melee potential.
Correct.
The Ravagers are a very good, dedicated melee unit. And the Blood Trackers are very skirmishy. They can do stuff at range, they can do stuff in melee. The Blood Weavers are interesting with like a toolbox. And so the Blood Pack, we really want to make a dedicated range unit. Like that's their job.
Yes.
They shoot things and they're effective in melee if they need to be.
They're not great, they're fine.
So
is what they are.
This tweak is to push them farther down that road of range combat. So they're gaining Hunter, which means they ignore concealment and cover when making range attacks, which is real good. And their mat dropped by 1 point to separate them from the Ravagers and make them less of a combat unit.
Yes, 100% agree. And Hunter's just an amazing role.
Yeah, and maybe Hunter's too good, and maybe Hunter puts them exactly where they need to be so they can shoot whatever they want.
Yes.
It's a pretty attractive change.
It is. Like it. My Company of Iron Force keeps getting more interesting as we go. We'll have to play another Company of Iron game when this is over and figure out what other model I'm putting in that army.
So Tharn Wolf Riders are next, and this is kind of one that I want to talk about a little bit because I think this is going to be a point of contention in the CID. After our dev talk last week, or dev hangout last week, we went upstairs and we had a little meeting about Wolf Riders and stuff because I was like, Backstab is awesome on these guys. We should put it back on there. We should talk about other options like using Weapon Master and things like that. And I sold Jason on it. Jason was like, we're going to do it. This is great. Like, fine. I'm with you. Like, we don't need Weapon Master necessarily. This really gives them a cool role of this flanking unit. And we did all that kind of stuff. And then we had a week of testing from you guys. And you guys were like, hey, we really like these guys. They're just a little too expensive. So instead of like changing them massively by cutting Weapon Master, giving them Backstab, really solidifying them as this flanking unit, We just kind of left them because you guys liked them and dropped their points back to what they were. So from their original point cost of 1118, which is what they're back to now, they picked up jump and dual attack and a defense, which is a pretty significant increase in power level. And as I said, a lot of the battle reports, a lot of the feedback forum and stuff like that were people talking very positively about the new rules and stuff. So that's kind of how that conversation went and what happened there, where all of us were kind of sold like this backstab idea is great, we can do this, this will be fine, but then you guys didn't necessarily want it, so we don't want to like force something on you that you don't necessarily want.
Yeah.
So that's what happened there, is what's going on with them. So they just dropped a couple points.
Needless to say, people are immediately saying Bloodpeck seems legit. Other people are saying love them as far as the Wolf Riders. So point made.
Yeah. Lord of the Feast, we didn't do a bunch here. Lord of the Feast is a weird model. I think there's a lot of poor assessments running around about him out there because people haven't really put him on the table and seen what he can actually do when he has corpses. We've also given him more ways to get corpses without himself in the game, like Season the Sauce from the Boilmaster, the Well of Orboros, which got some very substantial updates and very powerful updates. Definitely going to be giving him corpses with that. The theme benefit from Tharn here, right? Like so there's a lot of ways for him to get corpses if you take the things to give him corpses. He can also now be free in the Tharn theme force, which apparently happened last week, but we just put the note in this week. I don't know. I'm baby drunk or something.
Yeah.
Who knows?
And we did want to adjust him in a small way.
Drunk.
Sleep drunk.
Sleep drunk, sure. Yeah, so we also picked up his speed, which increases his threat range by 1 with the bird.
And went down by 1 point.
It also increases his charge range by 1. Like, it's just a little bump, like a little shove.
We want to make him a little bit better and encourage people to try him out as he is right now.
Yes. Grinaldi asks, can you tell us what the role of Lord of the Feast fits? I'm having a hard time finding a good place for him. So that's actually 2 very different questions. To me, the role of Lord of the Feast is a threatening piece that you have to be aware of, and he has excellent board control. So like if you have important solos near Warjacks that are low def, that's going to be a real bad time for that solo if Lord of the Feast pops up. If you put your caster in the wrong place with things like Carnage from Chromac 2, he might just kill your caster, especially now that he has Death Fueled, I think it is, where he gets the bonus strength from corpses and stuff. So to me, he makes your opponent play very differently. He's also excellent in situations where people like charge or heavy with 5 or 6 infantry, and Lord of the Feast can just like roll in there, kill 5 or 6 infantry, shoot his bird. Like it's great. He can do all sorts of great stuff with that. So there's sort of this pressure element that he applies to your opponent, and he makes your opponent position differently, which is not really something that I ever see brought up when talking about him or anything like that, because people are just like, he doesn't kill a heavy, I don't want him. Like, that's ridiculous, but whatever. He does a lot of stuff in that aspect in the game.
Yeah.
So his role to me would be sort of like a battlefield control and excellent combat solo, is that kind of thing. And in places that I like to see him, I like to see him in Call of the Wild. He's a great infantry clearer. He can apply pressure to flags and things like that. He can hold your own flag. Like, this guy is really, really hard to kill when he's sitting back on a flag. So you're just going to score that flag every single turn. So I really like him in Call of the Wild for that. I like him in Devourer's Host just in general, because once again, especially with things like Morvahna 2, you can get those rerolls in there, and he becomes very consistent. He can kill a lot of casters and a lot of solos and stuff like that. And if you put him off on a flank, they really have to commit something to go over there to kill him, because he's super durable.
And if he gets to something like Choir or Beast Handlers or whatever,
well, yeah, it's just straight
because
value.
they're near that low defense big thing that you can hit with the bird, then he's going to rip them
like
to pieces.
That's kind of how I play Lord of the Feast. And
You brought Idrian's nom nom nom.
Including in like WTCs, right? Like I've played Lord of the Feast in 2 different WTCs, and he did great for me. So I'm not too particularly worried about Lord of the Feast at the moment. He won't show up in every list, and I don't think he should. But the lists that do play him want him. So yeah.
So another solo got a tiny change.
Yep, just +1 point on the Tharn Blood Shaman.
Yeah, we've been getting a lot of feedback that the Tharn Blood Shaman is perfect, doing exactly what it needs to do, but there's also some feedback out there that maybe it's a little too powerful, especially that one ability.
Sure. I want to hit this one in chat as well, because I think it's a very, very, very common misconception that is not correct. Elish Nair says, needing to rely on other models for him means that you're investing 11 to 16 points in him, though. It's not like those other models just don't exist or like disappear once they help out Lord of the Feast, right? Like The Boil Master still gets to puppet strings things after he goes in. It gets to give him corpses for a turn. It still has Spectral Lash. The Well of Orboros definitely does other stuff besides give Lord of the Feast corpses, right? Like your theme benefit, it exists there, it's free. So I think there's this huge misconception in a ton of War Machine players.
Because they're literally
I see this everywhere.
Opposite.
I see this everywhere where everyone's like, oh my god, I have to pay Choir, so my Warjack costs 4 more points. Like, that's not true.
Yeah.
Right? Like, there's this thing that's, oh man, I have to take this model to make other model work. This guy costs twice as much now. Those other models do things. They exist and they are in the game. So like saying Lord of the Feast costs 11 or 16 points because I have to take these support models to play with them is simply not correct. Like that's not how the game works. That's not how list building works. That's not how you should be thinking about it. And if you are, I think it shows that you don't understand like actually how the game progresses and things like that. So I would highly suggest trying to get that out of your mind and seeing how those models actually play out on the table, not just looking at them from a list building perspective and pure cost to Lord of the Feast, because that's just very inaccurate and very wrong.
Well, and that's why we always talk about playing games, because if you have some free time building lists, completely fine. Spend 20 minutes while you're carpooling to work building lists. But building lists isn't playing the game. Playing the game shows you what happens, and sometimes one last model can grab a flag or contest a zone or do things that it would never do in its role or in your envision of what it's going to be there for. So that still happens all the time.
So to me, my favorite example of this is the Creelstone and Trolls, right? Like all those guys have little Mat 5, POW 11 axes, right? So if you have a Fell Caller and you have a Stone Scribe Elder in your list, those guys, if you have a Bouncer in your list as well, are Mat 9, POW 14. Like, they will just kill a heavy with Charge of the Trolls and the Fell Call for +2 Mat. Like, those guys are ridiculous. And the fact that they exist there means you can use them. And I think one of the things that separates like good players from great players in War Machine is being able to get work out of those support solos and those support things when they're done supporting.
You're not looking at attacks, you're looking at a value that is added through the synergy.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it's not just they sit there and give your shit +2 armor, right? Like that's not all that the Creelstone does. So, yeah. And honestly, I've seen way too many things die to Choir.
Oh yeah,
like holy moly.
Little Choir guy stick kills things. Not all the time, but sometimes when it really matters.
Yeah, like it's and they free strike stuff. Like it's there's so much more going on than just I took Choir and they sing songs, or I took a Boil Master and he gave Lord of the Feast 3 corpses. Like there's so much more going on than this.
There's people on the Twitch stream saying things are dark or out. Oh, there was a network error.
200,000, 2,000. There's
an extra 0 in there.
I'm pretty sure that's on Twitch's end right now.
Okay, so we're still streaming.
It's still going on Facebook. Still recording locally, so
and we can still see the Twitch chat.
Yeah, so this will still go up on YouTube. So I think they can still hear us though. Maybe.
I'm going to doubt that.
Don't know. Either way, we are still live. So
okay, so last solo in here.
Yes.
Tharn Ravager Shaman. Yes. It's a little tiny change, partially for consistency and partially for role. So consistency-wise, we've heard lots and lots of comments of every other male Tharn got rapid healing. This guy didn't. Now, part of that was because this is a support model that makes your army more powerful, and we were considering making him a little bit easier to remove. But we've reconsidered that as of yesterday, and we decided to make him consistent but change his role just slightly, because now he lost Battle Wizard, so now he's more of a backline, totally support your army, get into combat when he needs to get into combat, but not be up there fighting as much.
Yeah, we kind of want this guy. Think of like how a lot of our like veteran leaders work and things like that. We want him to be kind of hanging out in the back and playing more of like a commander leadership role kind of thing, instead of a like in the mix kind of punching stuff. And it was kind of brought up that Battle Wizard on this model was almost certainly a holdover from when he was a weapon attachment on the unit instead of a solo. Yeah, is probably where Battle Wizard came from originally, and we didn't really feel like it was adding a lot to his thing, and it's a lot of complexity. So, yeah. So that's kind of what happened with the Ravager Shaman there.
And then the Well of Orboros.
The Well of Orboros.
So,
It's exciting.
We're still experimenting a bit with what structures are in the game and their impact on games and stuff. And so we're doing something, as Pagani would say, kind of spicy with this one.
Spicy.
And it still gives you a free model. So we're still considering that free model as part of what you're getting out of this model. But we decided to drop the points on this, down to 10. It was 14, 15?
15.
It was 15. So it's gone down 5 points because it doesn't move and other things like that. So its impact on some games might not be as big as other models that can shift around the table.
There's a lot of drawbacks to being a structure.
Yeah.
So we are still kind of feeling out exactly what that means in terms of game balance and where we can point these models and what we can give these models to do. So I think the Shrine from the Exemplar CID, I think we hit a home run on that one. I think that guy's great. Does all sorts of stuff. The Well here, I think we're working on it. I think we're going to get to a good spot.
So it's gotten a lot of adjustments. That cost is probably the biggest one.
Yes.
The smallest one is adding Black Clad to the subtype.
That's small and huge at the same time.
It's small and huge at the same time because now it counts for free points in one of the team forces.
Yes, yeah. So I'm blanking on it. Secret Masters.
Secret Masters.
It counts towards free points. It also gets the veteran leader from the Fulcrum, which is kind of funny.
Yeah. So if your big floating rocks and your other big floating rocks are together, they help each other out.
Yeah. So that's pretty sweet. Cost 10, I think, is really the big one, as you said. And then the first sentence of opening the gate is point cost 5 or less now, and still non-characters. So this is going to stop the Wolf Rider champions from coming out. We saw a lot of complaints from people about, I think it's 28 free points of Wolf Rider champions in your list. Now you can only have 14, which is still pretty good.
Well, and that's
another ridiculous, right?
Another consideration of making this a 10-point model, not giving you a free 8-point model in addition to this
7
model.
now, but yes.
Yeah.
So, kind of exciting to see what happens out of this, because it's one that I haven't really had a chance to play test. Like, I haven't been here to play test these changes. So I'm excited to see what other people end up doing with it.
Its gun got a little bit longer ranged and a little bit more functional with rear attack.
Yes.
So that gives it a bit more table presence. And helps out models like Lord of the Feast and stuff that will get corpses from it.
Yep, we also made it optional to give corpses to things. So,
which is just a small change.
Correct. There was some weird stuff going on where you had to give corpses to things if they could take them, and if you didn't have anything else to get them, you had to give them to opposing models, which was super weird.
Yeah.
So we're not gonna worry about that one. We also put circle structures into Wild Hunt. That's kind of our last big change here.
So the Well is very much a faction-wide support piece. It's in the Tharn CID because we're playtesting Circle right now. And it's on the schedule to be released soon. And there's questions on if it will be a black anchor model or not. Those are decisions that are made by other departments and not us.
I think it's a safe assumption, yes.
So it's a safe assumption, yes, but it's not 100% guaranteed. So
and we have no idea.
Wait for the announcements on that to figure out how it's being sold and all that kind of stuff. But this model is envisioned as doing a little bit for any Circle army you put it into.
Correct, yeah.
Especially that free model, because that free model can help you with problems you're having in face-ups.
Yes, I think
face-ups?
It's face-ups? Matchups.
Sure, matchups.
Facing different things.
Facing different things, yes. You can be like, well, I have this kind of sideboard over here, and if my opponent is doing this at this point, I can bring in this model to help me with that and that kind of stuff.
Yes. Sabra asks, did Season the Sauce ever get discussed? Yes, we've been through this.
Yeah, there's a little bit of a delay in what people know about and what they don't know about, and
they can catch the recap on YouTube.
And it'll all be on YouTube, Privateer Press Prime on YouTube.
So feel free to ask the questions. We'll just say if we already went over it.
Yeah. There was also a question a little while ago about the implications of rapid healing and timed games.
Not a problem.
Yeah. Also, generally when we're making the rules, we don't consider timed games especially. We do sometimes consider, well, if this is some big giant feat. Oh, we are. Hey, look at that. So we're back on Twitch. If you're watching on Facebook and you were on Twitch earlier, and some people are still in the chat over there. So sometimes when a big complicated thing is happening, we do think about time. Yes. But generally, we make the game for everybody, not just a certain portion. And then you have to make decisions on if it's worth it for you to take models under time with how fast you can interact with them.
Yeah, that's your choice, not ours. Basically.
Because many players don't have any problem rolling that die after every damage roll and just resolving it as it happens. It's not going to be a super time-consuming thing for some people, but it's going to be for other people.
Yes. John, can we go back to Facebook chat right quick? Thank you. Are we concerned about the interaction with attached and open the gates or whatever that's called? No. We actually have a tactical tip coming.
Yep.
You probably don't see it on the CID forums because we remove all the tactical tips because they usually contain spicy things that are unreleased or something like that.
We don't delete tactical tips.
We remove a lot of them.
We remove typed-in tactical tips.
Which that one would be. But yes, there's a tactical tip coming that will address things like the FA, the theme force restrictions, attached, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. That'll be in War Room too, because tac tips are in War Room.
Yes. Matthew McWaters asks, regarding structures, are you guys going to address the must-sacrifice movement or action effects on structures? Probably not. That is an unfortunate side effect, but it is something that is going to exist, and we can't hit every single corner case in something like that because it's just simply too many things. So, sorry.
Tommy has an interesting question about ADR, the active duty roster. There's not necessarily a correlation between CIDs and what models are on the ADR, but sometimes there's a correlation between what models are being released and what models are on the ADR.
Correct.
So sometimes it lines up that when a new ADR comes around, then recent models that are new are on there, but not always.
Correct. So the answer to that is definitely
coincidental timing.
Yeah.
PPS Getz asks, Wills, what is your Tharn titles? What would your Tharn titles be? Oz, Eater of Joy.
No. No.
I don't know.
I spread joy. I just do it.
Very contained.
Very Oz-like.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think we'd have to double check with Getz, but I think Pagani might be what's just beneath an omnipotent.
I don't know, man.
Like a hemi-demi semi-potent.
A potent.
Almost potent.
Almost potent enough.
Yeah.
Spicy omnipotent.
Just a little potent.
Spicy potent.
Yes.
An impotent?
Ooh.
Yeah. Okay.
No, he's got a baby.
Obviously not.
Yeah, Pagani maker of baby.
Yes. Great. We got anything else?
I don't think so. We can see if there's any other. Everybody's saying potent, by the way. It's kind of
and we've got Chad saying Pagani, champion of the worm.
Thanks, Chad. That's going to be a good Oz face to me.
Yeah, there we go. So it doesn't look like there's any other major questions that we haven't talked about in some capacity. That's a deep dive question that probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, we're not going into something like that.
Yeah. So I think we'll just do some announcements and be done.
Sure.
And maybe if another question comes up. So like we always say, you can catch us 3 times a week or on YouTube later. Privateer Press Prime is the YouTube channel. On Tuesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific, we play a game of some sort in the Weekly Rumble. This is Wednesday at 10 a.m. Pacific, which is the Dev Hangout. And then Thursday, get your paint on, usually with Dallas, sometimes other painters, painting something and chatting with you guys about how to paint stuff or how to base stuff or whatever. And sometimes also Getz or Doug or somebody is on there for lore conversations as well.
And just a quick answer for Mert the Wise. He asks if the Monpoc starter boxes will come with the rulebook. They absolutely do.
Yes.
Physical rules. Little one.
Yeah. A little digest rulebook.
Little digest
It's the full
rulebook.
rules.
Super good. Yep.
It is the full rules.
Yep. It's
But
just
it's
digest
the little book.
sized. But you can also get them free on the website.
You can. MonsterApocalypse.com. You can download the rules, the entire rules, for free right now. And the street date for those Monster Apocalypse starters is the 21st.
Yep.
So we're getting close to everybody being able to have some. So
If you have not pre-ordered them already, do it now.
Yeah, talk to your stores, get your pre-orders in, because
it's going to do real good.
Yeah.
I'm
And if
excited-
you
I'm really
haven't
excited
joined the
for that
Facebook group and seen some of people's awesome paint jobs from Gen Con pre-purchases, then do that too. And speaking of pre-purchases, I'm so good at segues today. It's almost like I'm a former professional. So the Black Anchor model right now is the Supreme Guardian, and pre-orders for that model are up until the 10th of this month, which is next Monday. So if you want the special patch for pre-ordering, then get your order in at store.privateerpress.com for your Supreme Guardian. And everybody needs at least 2 of those just for scenery pieces when you're not using them in a game.
So dope.
And then our other thing right now is Mini Crate at mini-crate.com. A brand new 6-month cycle just started. Lady Rose Riding Hood, the Grimkin solo Lady Rose turned into Little Red Riding Hood, is happening right now, and that's available till the 19th. And then Alexia, Handmaiden of Death, many people's favorite Mini Crate exclusive model, is the VIP subscription model for this cycle. So put your VIP subscription in at any point, and you will receive her in the next 6 months.
Or the next shipment that you were.
That's right. I meant,
Depending on timing.
The next 6 months was
if you subscribed right as a shipment
was part of my first
probably
sentence.
have to wait
But
till
just
the next
added
one.
later.
All right. Did any more of the questions
So
pop
there
up?
is an interesting question about the role of Bridget and Call.
Sure.
We didn't change. We talked about Bridget and Call quite a bit yesterday. We didn't change Bridget and Call significantly yet. We've discussed possible things, but we don't quite think that enough people have gotten a handle on what that unit really does, because it's combined melee and ranged and all that.
And looks super dope.
And super dope. So we want people to play a little bit more with them and give us some more feedback about what's going on. And mini crate questions, the Legends of 5 Rings mini crate, the pre-orders for that are going up later in the year, and we'll tell you a lot more about that when it happens.
Yes.
More to come on that. There is definitely more to come on that. And then I saw a quick question about No Quarter Prime. Basically, we were like, you're going to get all that content for free because it's dope content, and why have to wait on a magazine when we can publish it in a more timely fashion on the web?
Yes. Yeah. So people that are sad about No Quarter Prime going away, that content isn't going away.
Yeah. Just like the 3 brand new Extreme Colossal Wrestlers, the Dracodile and the Vulcan and the Sea King, that content is coming to you for free
Very soon.
on the website very soon. So you're still going to get content like Fire in the Forge and free mini games and stuff like
Just
that.
like Fire of the Forge was last Friday.
And that's going to happen on the website now instead of in a magazine, because it's much easier logistically for us
And
to
yes,
do
we
that.
are getting a major website overhaul. Things are being worked on.
Yes. There's a lot of tinkering going on in the backs of
And
the
to be
pages.
flat honest, not having to like work around print deadlines and stuff like
Yes.
that actually makes all of those processes much
Much easier.
faster.
Much easier for us. Sabra asks, do we have any idea when the War Machine Weekend pre-releases will be announced? I'm sure someone does.
Yes.
It's not any of us.
Yes,
And
I do.
And sometimes that stuff gets tweaked towards, like, sometimes they throw a new model into the pre-orders right before the shipment goes out. So you won't know exactly what models are on there sometimes until the show starts.
However, I am awaiting for final confirmation. As soon as I get that, I'm probably going to let Dallas spill the beans on that one.
Yeah. Sure. And
As soon as I get 100% confirmation.
Frat Bro asked a question about Divine Inspiration on the Tharn. Is it too strong? That's why we made the Blood Shaman 1 more point, and that's our subtle push that maybe that ability is too strong, so we increased her points by 1, and maybe not. We're gonna see.
Yep.
So I think we're done.
Yep. Goodbye, everyone.
Pagani can go home and sleep or something with the baby.
Yes, indeedy.
Yeah. So we'll see you tomorrow on the live stream with Dallas, and we will be back on Tuesday or Wednesday of next week
I might
at
not
10
be
a.m.
here.
Pacific.
I don't know.
Who knows?
We'll see.
Who
Goodbye, everyone.
can tell?
Something.
I'm going to go bedtime now.